Learn more at ultimatepartyfoul.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
When I was little, I didn't talk for a long time. I was sensitive to lights and sounds, so I built secret hiding places where they couldn't get in. Sometimes I did the same things over and over, until one day I found out I had autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I learned how to live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
WURD TV. We're streaming live video of this conversation right now. Tune in on YouTube at onWURD or on Facebook at forward. WURD TV. Black Talk Media.
Hey, everybody.
I'm Aja.
And I'm Fatine of Kindred the Family Soul. You're listening to The Lounge with Envy McKee
and DJ Frosty Phoenix.
Welcome back to Friday Night Star People Lounge. My name is Envy McKee, DJ Frosty Phoenix. We're talking about the art of being heard, and this is the healing episode. But it's also still Autism Awareness Month, and so Star Sister from Another Mother, Afia Tucker, is in the building. Well, virtually in the building. Hey, Mama!
Hi!
How you doing?
I am great. Thanks for having me.
Happy Friday, girlfriend.
Happy Friday. Yes, it's Friday. Don't even feel like it.
It kind of does, but it kind of does. The weather is breaking. Though the weather outside is kind of warmer, tomorrow it will be frozen. So if you got some place to go, it'll probably rain on your head.
Absolutely.
Listen, don't pay me no mind. Okay, so you get us up to speed on this Divas for Autism Awareness event that star diva Shirley Ralph Hughes is going to be hosting on next week.
Yes, so next week, 7 days exactly, next Friday, in Philadelphia at the Divine Lorraine Hotel.
Oh.
Star diva Shirley Ralph Hughes is going to host Divas for Autism Awareness. So Shirley Ralph has a nonprofit organization called the Diva Foundation. So, you know, I was talking to her one day, and she is a huge advocate for people, for, you know, education, inclusiveness, all of that. So we're having a conversation about, you know, Autism Awareness Month, because April's Autism Awareness Month. And I said, well, how about we name, you know, the event Divas for Autism? And she said, awareness, right? Playing off of the Diva Foundation. So both bringing attention to the Diva Foundation, but also the cause is to shine a bright light on autism awareness. Cheryl is lending her voice. She is going to host a meaningful conversation that we plan to have. What we hope to walk away with is a measurable action plan involving all different types of folks who make up our community. How can we better support families, and how can we really make a difference for individuals who are directly affected by autism? So it's a conversation, a party for with a plan, if you like to, you know, say it. But parents are involved, our elected officials are involved, organizations who serve families and individuals are going to be involved, and our community leaders.
Yes. So that's good. I mean, we have not been able, and next week we're having our autism show, so prayerfully you can call back in and share your very real experiences with.
Yes.
Okay, so why do you think it's so super important that we continue to have these discussions, you know, on the air and in our families and at the table and all different kinds of things?
And, you know, thanks for saying that, because we have to have multiple conversations, right? Like we have to have these public conversations, then we have to have maybe a different type of conversation with our loved ones and family members. Then we have to have a conversation in our educational environment. I think the conversations are very important because we still have some ways to go with awareness and then how we're treating individuals.
Yes.
Based on the information that we know. But I'm about action behind it also, right? So that's why it was very important when I had the conversation and Michelle said, hey, you know, I'm going to advocate as well, but we have to take action. That was our conversation. It has to be a plan. We're walking away with everyone is either going to pledge to do something or going to move to do something, and we're going to hear from folks. We're not going to have we're going to have an inclusive conversation, right? As we push for inclusiveness for folks who aren't neurotypical, we're going to have different people come to the table. We're going to talk, but we're going to talk about what we're going to do. And I think that's what's going to be a little bit different, maybe. I'm going to speak from my conversation sometimes, my experience from having conversations, speaking at the table. So I'm not saying that other folks don't do this, but the conversation still needs to be needed because I think we're at a much better point than where we were 10 years ago. My son is 17. He was diagnosed when he was 3. So I see, though, the difference in people knowing and recognizing the word autism. But at the same time, we can't say everyone on the spectrum is different, and we're treating everyone on the spectrum the same. So
it's a complicated conversation to have because autism has become kind of a catchphrase for lots of different things. Would you agree?
I would agree.
So, and everybody on the spectrum, it's a spectrum. Everybody on the spectrum don't have the same, ideas. They don't have the same abilities. I think one of the things, I had a conversation not that long ago, and it kind of revolved around what people know about autism is that the kids have meltdowns. And so in people's minds is, they're causing a issue in wherever they are because they're having a meltdown. And
it's bigger than that.
Yeah. Thank you. That's what I was. It's bigger than that. And so that's why it's really, 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 really important that we continue to have these conversations. If you are a parent of a child who is on the spectrum, if you are a sibling of a child that's on the spectrum, if you are just a human being that wants to live in a world where compassion is shown for everyone, regardless of whether their range of neurotypical, I'm about to make up a word, girl.
No, you didn't make up a word, because this is a word that folks are using. So, neurotypical and neural differences, we're hearing these phrases, right? And over the years, I've seen the words, change. We went from, disabilities to intellectual disabilities to differences, and I just like to use the word abilities, because we all have different abilities.
Right. And I have found, though, that a lot of kids on the spectrum are just way more focused in different areas than other people are, and so they're very advanced in areas that we can't even pay attention for. You get what I'm saying?
Right. That's right.
So
it is it's folks who are on the spectrum has very high IQ levels. We're talking genius. We're talking very intelligent. It's not, and I'm glad you brought that up, because sometimes too people think autism not smart, right? Or kind of equate autism with maybe retardation, which is different. But autism, the spectrum, like you said, we have to really focus on the spectrum, covers a wide scope of complex disorders.
Thank you.
You have your Asperger's. You have what some people may say classic autism. My son was diagnosed with pervasive developmental disorder. So imagine being a parent getting that diagnosis, and you like, well, what does
that even mean?
What does that mean?
What does that even mean?
I remember being on the computer for hours and just not being able to find anything that really broke that down. It was just basically a form of autism. That was it. So then you got this diagnosis and no answers. Like no reason behind it. We're always looking for the why and what's the cause, and it was no cause. It was no answers. I hear now that you may walk away with a folder, but I remember talking to my doctor, and like, well, what do we do? And it was basically like, well, you don't do nothing. And it's like, well, how do I make this better? And it's like, you don't make it better. But
what? Girl, that's why we're doing this show next week.
My experience. That's why we're doing this next week.
That's why we're doing this show next week.
I want to push people, to. I'm not saying don't take the advice. Take the advice. Get plenty of advice. Get plenty of information. Push your children, right? Push your children, and don't let anyone tell you what they think that they absolutely cannot do, because I just don't believe in that. And I've experienced, having conversations where folks looked at me like I was crazy, because I'm like, I just want my son to come home and tell me how his day was. And they're like, oh, you think he's going to be able to do that? And he does it. So, just little things like that, like challenge your children, challenge your loved one, watch over them, pick up where you feel like maybe the agencies or your school district isn't, has dropped off or isn't doing as much as you would like to. Like, it's layers. It's so deep. And sometimes it's like peeling a piece of fruit, right? I know with my son, if he just meets you, he don't give you everything. You got to get into his world. So I hope with the awareness, thank you, that we can make people more empathetic, and they are willing to come into someone else's world instead of waiting for them to come to be a part of their larger scheme of things.
Now, wouldn't it be interesting if, and there are some theories that kids who are on the autistic spectrum are actually like indigo children or rainbow children or something in the realm. And wouldn't it be interesting if we're going to be airy-fairy for a moment, these kids came down to help us to stop and become hyper-aware of the world that we live in, to get out, like you said, to get out of our myopic idea of things and come into their world and play in their realm, which is far more pure. You get what I mean?
Oh my goodness. Yes. Yes. I have to stop myself, not as much now, but maybe some years ago, with the, just having these tough feelings, right? Sometimes, just worrying or being upset. My son he got to be the happiest person I ever met. Right?
I love it.
And I'm just like, well, I felt like I didn't have the right to be upset or sad or worried when he wasn't, and he is walking in those shoes.
Right. And
I mirror.
Absolutely. And what if the lesson here is that we have to allow people to be who they are, for number one, and number two, to stop trying to live in this crazy world. Stop trying to fit our kids into our small view, and to kind of allow them to be who they came here to be, you know, without our judgment.
And I think my thing was, right, I accept my son totally. Like, I wasn't one of those, I couldn't be in denial because I cared so much about who he is and who he was going to be. I wanted him to get as much help as possible. So I never really went through a phase where I just wanted him to be typical, you know, air quote. My thing is, how is the world going to treat my child?
Yeah.
That was my biggest worry, and still can be sometimes. That was my biggest fear. What kind of life is he going to have? Can he have a wife? Is he able to cook for himself? Are people going to be mean to him? Is he even going to understand what's going on around him? You know, but you have to, I think, really take a step back. And like you said, stop this trying to, you know, make them be the one that fit and accommodate them for who they are. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And that's a perfect way to cap this discussion up, because A, we're going to have a bigger discussion next week about our full autism awareness show. And then B, next week also, there is the event with star auntie Shirley Ralph. Give us the details again, and how can they get involved, go there, get tickets, whatever the case.
Sure. So if you don't remember anything else, you can Google Divas for Autism Awareness. I do it all day. We'll pop right up.
Okay. Okay.
And you can reserve a ticket on Eventbrite. Okay. Or you can email Awesome Lives, and I'm going to break it down because it's not awesome like AWE, it's AUSOMELIVES, awesomelives@gmail.com. You can send an email. That is the nonprofit organization and parent support group that I run for folks who have children who are on the autism spectrum. I do want to mention that Councilman at Large Derek Green is going to be a part of the conversation.
Okay, I grew up with Derek. Hey, Derek, what's up? He was in Jack and Jill. We were in Jack and Jill together.
Really?
Yeah. Shout out to Bucks County chapter Jack and Jill.
Who was on the autism spectrum as well. He's a huge advocate.
Okay, awesome. Awesome.
So, yeah, you can hit us up on we're on Facebook at my organization's on Facebook. And Instagram at Awesome Lives, AUSOMELIVES. That's Instagram, Facebook, our website, awesomelives.com. And Shirley Ralph is Diva. She is Diva. I don't want to mess it up. I want to say, well, hold up. Shirley Ralph, Google her.
Google her. That's right. She's on Instagram. You'll figure it out. Thank you so much, Afia, for stopping through the lounge. You rock so hard, and I can't wait to talk to you again next week. So you're listening to Friday Night at the Lounge. Is 900 AM, 96.1 FM, WRD. When we come back, we're going to you good, man? Philip Roundtree's in the building. You good? You good, man? We'll be right back.
Philly, D.C., and everything in between. Reality Check with Charles Ellison. Breaking down the latest in local and national news. Monday through Thursday, 4 p.m. till 7 p.m. Right here on onWURD Radio.
The Kimmel Center presents the Diva Jazz Orchestra. One night only, Saturday, April 27th. This 15-piece all-female jazz orchestra exudes the excitement and force found in the tradition of the historic big bands, but with an eye towards today's progressive sound and originality. Diva performs all over the world, playing contemporary mainstream big band jazz composed and arranged to each artist's style. Don't miss Diva Jazz Orchestra, April 27th only. For tickets and additional information, visit kimmelcenter.org. Word family, our friends at Amoroso's Baking Company are hiring right now. Amoroso's has been baking the delicious bread in our community for over 100 years, and they want you to join their team today. The old and the young love Amoroso's, and they're hiring right now. Check it out. They offer fair pay and provide health, dental, and prescription plans after 90 days of employment. Call Scott Drummond at 215-863-8801 or visit amorosos.com for details.
This is the story of a very special woman. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician or an entrepreneur. Her knowledge was limitless and still is. She could also make monsters disappear, especially those that lurked in the shadows under the bed. Once, this woman put back together a teenage girl's broken heart, which had been shattered in 1,000 pieces. Just by giving her a bear hug. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Word Radio extends our deepest condolences to the family and friends of Queen Mother Audrey Johnson Thornton, President Emeritus of the Belmont Mansion. A public viewing has been set for Friday, April 19th from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the Belmont Mansion, 2000 Belmont Drive, with homegoing services taking place on Saturday, April 20th from 10 a.m. till 2 p.m. at St. Luke's Episcopal Church, 5421 Germantown Avenue. Lifting every voice till earth and heaven ring. This is Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia. Black Talk Media. Word TV. We're streaming live video of this conversation right now. Tune in on YouTube at onWURD or on Facebook at ForWord. Word TV. Black Talk Media.
Hey, this is Bianca Ingram, and you are listening to The Lounge on Word Radio.
Welcome back to Friday Night at the Lounge. My name is Envy McKee, DJ Frosty Phoenix on the ones and twos. He's the DJ, I'm the rapper. This is Friday Night at the Lounge. We getting it in. You're my lady. You're my lady. So in the studio, as promised, he is a wellness advocate. He is he's doing considerable work helping men and boys heal from trauma. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good.
He said that sounds good.
Yeah, that sounds good.
He has this podcast called You Good Man? He's also the founder of Quantify. Please give it up for Philip Roundtree, please.
Yay.
He's got on his T-shirt that says, "This is what depression looks like."
Well, today is anxiety.
Oh, anxiety. Oh, this one is anxiety. You got
today.
depression. Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Okay.
We cover the gamut.
Yeah, but I love that because you are the billboard when people go, "Oh my God, you're so positive. Oh my God, you started this business. Oh my God, you're doing this work." And people, for whatever reason, feel like healing is a destination rather than a process. You know what I'm saying? Like when I tell people my journey, like it started when I had my daughter and it's still ongoing. You know, this evolution, this revelation.
Yeah.
They feel like, what was your journey to becoming this spiritual person? And it's still happening. It's an unfoldment, just like everything. Like, you're going to have pockets of moments where you're depressed. You're going to have pockets of moments where you're anxious. I used to smoke. I said this last week. I used to smoke because I had such horrible anxiety. And, meditation helped me profoundly to get to that place. But it doesn't mean I don't still have anxiety. I just have different coping skills.
Yeah.
Right? So, A, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
B, I love your shirt. I love what you're wearing. We met at the at Uncle Bobby's, the author series that I moderated a few weeks ago, and we were talking briefly because you were supposed to have a men's group or something.
I was. We were displaced due to the wonderful author event, and I didn't get a chance to read the book, but I'm sure it's great.
No, it's really, really cool. It's really cool. So I'm going to assume that anxiety and depression and other forms of life topsy-turvy got you started on this path?
Facts.
Yeah.
So you want me to get into it?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Why not? I mean, you're the first person, not first person, you're one of few people who, when they see the shirt, they attribute it to me. Because typically, whenever I go speak, one of the things that I do, I'm a speaker, colleges, universities, different places, I always start, when you look at me, what do you see? Right? And so, like when I had my hair out before I'm in the midlife transition. I don't say crisis. You know what I mean? I'm transitioning to a higher sense of self.
We all are.
You know what I mean? So now I have some locks in my hair, but at one point I just had like
they look like curlies.
It was because it's raining outside. Like, it's heavy out there. But people usually say you look like James Hart and you look like 50 Cent. You look like
I did. Thank you for giving me that.
There you go.
But you seem like you seem so much sweeter than 50 Cent.
Curtis. Yeah. I'm the nicer version of Curtis. But
I didn't see it, and now I see it. Thank you. You look just like 50 Cent with a beard.
Yeah. People go through all these names, then they identify the obvious. Oh, you're big, right? You look strong. And so it's like, but then I say, well, I'm somebody that lives with depression, anxiety. I'm somebody who takes medication every day. I was suicidal for 15 years, 4 to 5 times every day.
Wow.
I go to therapy now I go Fridays. Hi, Dr. Val.
Hi.
She says she won't be listening to the 9 o'clock hour. But I go to therapy. And so, because it's this idea that we have about what mental health looks like, I don't fit the bill, right?
Of course you do. You're the only. I would not trust anyone to tell me anything that they had not experienced. Do you know what I'm saying? That's why I was able to attribute it to you, because I got on this path reluctantly because that was my experience.
Yeah, but and for sure. But when we look at mainstream society, and I did a TED Talk it's called Black Mental Health Matters. Yeah, I gotta get the plugs in. You know what I mean? I gotta get the plugs in. Feel free, check it out on YouTube, Philip Roundtree. Oh no, it's all love. And so, within the TED Talk that I did, I talked about how, again, mental health, especially in American culture, is a white thing. Right, they're the face.
The health aspect of it, being mentally healthy is white.
Just the idea of when we talk about mental health. So when we say mental health in this country, it's Kate Spade, it's Anthony Bourdain, it's Chester Bennington, it's Robin Williams. Rarely is it Ashanti Davis, Lee Thompson Young, Sam Sarpong. People of color, right? When we think about mental health in this country, we think about the homeless man talking nonsensically to himself because he might be dealing with psychosis, right? But rarely is it somebody that looks like me, somebody who has 2 master's degrees, somebody who's a father of 2 children, somebody who who works every day to empower not only black and brown boys and men, but just people in general.
Yeah.
And so, you know, because we have this misconception about what mental health looks like.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's part of my journey to break down those barriers.
Yeah.
And you know, it's interesting, to say the least, right? It's interesting. Quick story, the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention, you know, which is a national organization, they do a lot of great work with regards to suicide prevention.
Yeah.
And, you know, I followed the Philadelphia chapter on Facebook, and I'm just sitting there like, dang, another article, white person, mental health. Another article, white male, mental health. White woman, mental health. White kid, mental health. Where's the representation, right? Because I'm not going to look at an article if I don't see somebody that looks like me.
That's right.
Right? And so I reached out to them, and they, you know, they wanted to, you know, have a powwow about, you know, how they could have more diversity and inclusion, right? And when I hear diversity...
Can you hear my eyes rolling?
No, and listen...
Can you hear it?
And I'm sure they're wonderful people, and I didn't get around to doing it because I do get tired, right? I get tired of trying to teach white folk.
Because that's not your job. It's not your job.
You know,
it's not your job.
I don't know.
It's not your job.
What it is I look at it as, you know, heavy is the head that wears the crown. So this is what comes with it, right? If I want to promote mental wellness and emotional wellness, I need to hit everybody. Right. And so if that means informing somebody that doesn't look like me, right, letting them know, listen, Sam Sarpong exists. And people are like, who is Sam Sarpong? Exactly. Because when you have the montages of people who died, he's not on there, but he's an actor. He was on MTV's Your Mama. Right. He was, you know, in different things. What else was he in? He was in The People vs. O.J. Simpson on FX. Right. Like, he gets lost in this shuffle. So I have to show them, right? Not because of informing them, but to keep these individuals' memories alive and to let them know, listen, this is what we're experiencing over here.
I guess what I'm saying is that you're not the only one in this realm. So we all have to do more.
Facts.
We all have to do more. Yeah. We all have to. Like, it's really easy. And one of my challenges is that I shy away from being more public. You know, this platform exists, but I used to be on the radio and I shied away from it. As the more I got in depth in my spiritual journey, the more I dug in, the less I wanted to be seen.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean?
No, I'm there. No, trust me, I'm there.
And so it's a challenge, and I understand that part of the journey is the more when you know it, you have to share it. But part of it is you also realize that what happens is so few people who want to, you know, out there really doing the work. You find that it's really the students, I'm just going to say this wrong. So I'm going to take 2 steps back. You have the folks that don't have the purest intentions who are doing the most.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
That's what I'm going to say, and that's where I'm going to leave that.
Yeah.
And so you have all these people who are really just taking advantage of people's pain so that they can make a profit.
Oh, yeah. Listen,
and so it gets complicated. That's why we hunker down more. You get where I'm going?
I do.
Okay.
I do. I got you.
And so having that challenge, the line that you straddle is there's more of us that have to step up. And so you don't have to do everything. That's what I'm trying to that's what I'm trying to get across.
Yeah. I
like there are other people in this realm who are doctors, they're psychologists and whatnot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That can shuffle this conversation forward while you're doing the very needed work by helping people, men and boys, heal.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get it. No, I listen to it, but I'm definitely listening. But a part of me is like, I personally don't even worry about anybody else doing this. Like I know a lot of dope brothers, that social media has afforded me to connect with, and I'll champion them all day, right? But it is sort of like a Kobe type of mentality too, right? Where
Kobe? Are we doing basketball reference?
Yeah, because it's the playoffs. It's the playoffs. But it's that nobody's me though, right? And so it's and that's what it is. Like I feel that I should be in every space, having every conversation about mental health, even though I recognize that's not realistic and that could lead to potentially burnout and what have you, or primarily burnout. But again, I just what my goals are as far as pushing this idea of total wellness. I'm
what does that look like? What does total wellness look like? And I want you to answer that question. So keep that in the front of your awareness. And then I also want to know, this is what we're going to do. You're going to answer that question.
Okay.
Then we're going to go break.
Okay.
And then when we come back, you can answer the next question, which is I want to pull some of these current event pieces out, and I want to talk about the 0 to 1,000 anger.
Oh yeah.
Shotgun. Machete. I don't know what it is, but
survival. But we'll get into that. We'll get into that.
Okay.
So what total wellness is to me, and as she said, I'm the founder of Quadify LLC, and it's based on the 4 areas of wellness, which is the quad that I feel are super important in order for us to not only live, right? Because we're living, but the goal is to thrive.
That's right.
And so those 4 areas are physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual wellness. And it's this idea that if all of them are at optimal levels, then we're going to thrive. If any one of them is lacking, then it's going to make our experience here that much more difficult, right?
What do you find most in which of the 4 areas do you find most people struggle with?
I think that it's all intertwined. It's all intertwined. That's really what I see, because I can say the physical aspect, and it's not just about working out. Right, it's about getting adequate sleep. It's about staying hydrated. It's about going to the doctor to get checked. Note to self, right? I've had some stomach issues for the last 4 or 5 days. There was no way I was going to the doctor, right? And
ginger tea.
Huh?
Ginger tea.
Well, I did some Nexium, and Nexium that did the job. You know what I mean? but again, it's if we're not.
I said ginger tea. He said the purple pill. I'm not playing with you
How
today.
How do you know it's purple, though?
Because it says, I saw the commercials.
All right. It worked, though.
Okay.
It worked. But, all 4 of them need to be thriving.
Yes.
So, and what we see, especially what I see in a lot of communities and again, regardless of, gender or no matter how you identify, these things are rampant across, ethnicity, socioeconomic status. Yeah, part of it is what we talked about in the first hour. You got to work 15, 11 jobs just to be able to make rent. Facts. It's a stressor. That's stressful. That's stressful. Yeah. You got 2 and 3 jobs. You have no time for yourself. You have no time off. You know what I'm saying? You can't. People talk about get a massage. How? Yeah. Yeah. And then you got kids, and then you got people on social media judging. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. Yeah, for sure. I'm talking to you. If you feel judged, if you feel I'm talking to you. Sorry, I feel like you want to say names. You know what I mean? I'm from the old school. Like, we say names in songs. You know what I mean?
I'm not gonna say any names. If you feel personally slighted by that statement, that was for you. Yeah, but no, it's again, total wellness. It should be the name of the game, but it requires so much, right? It's actually a luxury to be able to focus on every aspect of your wellness. It isn't. It is now, but it should not be.
It shouldn't be.
It should not be.
Yeah, it shouldn't be.
Food, clothing, shelter, and love should not be things that we are scrabbling for.
I agree.
You get what I mean?
Yeah.
You got that. Yeah. Now you can. What's the next level? You got that. Now, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's like
and you want to be in a stage of Maslow's hierarchy of self-actualization. You want to get to that point, but that journey is difficult, and it gets more and more difficult the more we advance as a society, right?
Do you consider it advancing? Because I feel like it's not advancing.
I literally think we jump. We really go from 1 to 5 to 4 to 2. And that's where we are. And when I say advancing, I'm talking about, Maslow didn't account for Instagram, right? He didn't say, dang, it's going to be Instagram later.
But Instagram, we got to go to break. You're going to have me in here. This is Friday night, the Star People Lounge. My name is Evie McKee. That's DJ Frosty Phoenix. In the studio, we have Phil Roundtree. He's qualifying us, trying to get our minds right. I know it seems like I have a headache. I don't. I'm just being me right now. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900. Do you have questions for Phil? Because I have a question for him. I want to talk about Nipsey. And I want to talk about, a lot of the violence that goes on in some of our communities. I have an idea of what it is, but I'd love to get your take on this 0 to 1,000. You stepped on my sneaker! Yeah. It's more than it's more.
It's bigger than Nino Brown.
That's
bigger, my favorite.
It's bigger
because it's
than
real. It's bigger than Nino
Brown.
Yeah,
I need to take a moment and just sit back on that one. You're listening to Friday Night at the Lounge on 900 AM, 96.1 FM WURD. We'll be right back.
The Source. Weekdays 10 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Special guest host Renee Patan every Monday in April.
The Source. Exclusively on Word Radio and WordRadio.com.
I ain't no better than you. And you ain't no better than me. But we all have something in common. We all are in species, seeds of God's creation.
Tune in to Messages in the Music every Friday night with Joey T, midnight to 6 a.m. right here on WURD.
This is Word Radio, independent black media.
We first opened about 10 years ago. We were small, just a few of us, but it was exciting. I always dreamt of having my own business. It was kind of slow at first, but things started picking up. We had big plans. But in our wildest dreams, we never thought we'd have this much work. Yeah, with so many businesses caught off guard by the storm, Reed Waste Management has never been busier.
What will become of your business after a disaster? Nearly 2/3 of businesses aren't prepared for an emergency, and 40% of businesses that experience a disaster never recover. Make an emergency plan now, before it's too late. For a free online tool that helps you develop an emergency plan to keep your business up and running should disaster strike, visit ready.gov/business. Brought to you by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, the American Red Cross, and the Ad Council.
Word TV. We're streaming live video of this conversation right now. Tune in on YouTube at onWURD or on Facebook at ForWord. Word TV. Black Talk Media.
Hey everybody, we're Kindred, the family soul, and you're tuned into the lounge with Envy McKee
and DJ Frosty Phoenix
on WURD.
And my credit's jacked up. People can't take it. They're straight setting fire. Not trying to make no trouble. They just wanna get higher. The stress level high and the morale's low. And when it's looking like it's about to blow, your mind to the moon. Stop what you're doing. Tap into your magic. Feels good soon as you add it. If you forgot you had it, yeah, well
Welcome back to Friday Night at the Lounge. Envy McKee, DJ Frosty Phoenix. In the studio, we have Philip Roundtree. He's doing this work, yo. Behind the scenes, we were talking about it's real out here in these streets. And someone that I know is having like a personal schism. And you can see it. And when you talk to them, it's like they're not there, you know? And it scares me a lot because I don't know how to help.
Yeah.
And I don't want to tell this person's story. That's why I'm not saying who it is and who they are, you know. But you were telling me behind the scenes that, you know, you said drinking is your kryptonite?
Yeah, drinking is something I have to be mindful of.
Okay.
Right? It's you know, I picked up hi to my daughter who just called me.
Hi.
So she's listening.
What's her name?
Kaylin.
Hi, Kaylin.
She's like, you did amazing. It's like, it's not over yet. But yeah, you know, drinking is something that I have to be hyper aware over because, you know, it's something that I've used as a way to cope, right?
Yeah.
A way to cope in different situations. Now, I wouldn't say that you know, there's two types of you know, we talk clinically speaking, you know, you have alcohol abuse, which means you're drinking on a daily basis. Then you have alcohol use disorder, which is, yeah, you might drink once a week, once every few weeks, but when you drink, it's over the edge, right? And for me, it's something that I have to be mindful of because there was a point in time where, shoot, my entire 20s, right? I'm, you know, living with depression and anxiety, you know, not being self-confident, dealing with self-esteem issues. So when I get into these social settings, I got to loosen up, right? And then I gotta keep up with my friends, right? And so we just sitting there drinking, even though the intent, like I don't go into it intentionally saying, oh, you know what, I'm gonna get drunk. It happens, right? Because sometimes I didn't trust myself in these situations.
And the mood, you're in the mood. You hang with your friends, and you know what I'm saying. It gets cute. Your song gets on. You know what I'm saying. I don't drink, but you know I've been there. You know what I'm saying, where in a social circumstance, you don't want to be the only one holding a water.
You know, you're talking about those pressures, and then you're talking about, you know, something I talk about in therapy a lot. And you know, when I'm in my own personal therapy, and when I talk with brothers, I talk with sisters. You know, who's showing up. Right. So I'm 35 now. You know, a 35-year-old Phil could go in a bar and just chill and not have a drink, which I do now. Right. But, you know, sometimes in the past, and me being 31, 32, shoot, last year when I was 34, I was in a car accident because I made a unhealthy choice. Right. And so thankfully nobody was hurt. Thankfully I didn't get any DUIs or anything like that, but that really opened my mind because I'm out here doing this work and, you know, things weren't matching up in some aspects.
Ooh,
and
honey,
so
we could do a whole week of shows on that.
And so it's something that I had to be mindful of. But a lot of times when I would get in these situations, especially in my 20s, you know, it was 14-year-old Phil showing up, the one who was 300 pounds, the one who was socially awkward, the one who didn't have the abilities to converse and communicate with the opposite sex, with the same sex at times, you know. So that's who would be showing up in this situation getting drunk, not the 30-some-year-old who was confident and self-assured. And so it's just something that me personally, I have to be mindful of.
That's a really cool and interesting way of putting it, because when we're talking about arrested development, a lot of times we say, a lot of times we look at things as very linear. You know what I'm saying? And the reality is we have lots of different aspects of ourselves that pop up depending upon, you know, the moon, just, you know, whatever's going on. It's a very interesting and it makes it easier to kind of pinpoint things.
Yeah, no, for sure. And what's key in that situation is when those feelings do arise, you got to give them permissions. I have to give 13 and 14-year-old Phil permission to just be here, right? Like, yo, it's all right. Like, you good.
Hi.
Right?
Like,
exactly. Hey, what's up? I acknowledge you. I see you. I'm not going to suppress you with more alcohol or more marijuana or more sex or more isolation, right? I'm not,
because that's how we got here.
Facts.
Wow. So let's talk about you know, there are lots of things that happen in the news that contribute to trauma. It's like, so sometimes when you're watching the violence, it contributes to trauma for you. If you've experienced a trauma, and it could be triggering for you. But I do want to talk about what happened with Nipsey Hussle. But not so much what happens with him, what happens with so many of our young men.
Yeah.
And their inability to, I don't even know what to call it, but I'm sure that you know what to call it. What do you think happened with Nipsey?
What it is it's an inability to cope, right? And that happens with a lot of black and brown men. With that situation, I think I might have talked your head off about it in those quick 5 minutes when I met you.
Well, can you? Is that possible?
To talk your head off?
No, it's not possible for you to. And by the way, I just want to remind everybody we're talking to Philip Roundtree. He is a healer. He's doing this healing work. He's a founder of Quantify, and he is a mental wellness advocate. So he's not just talking out of his. He's got 2 master's degrees.
2 master's degrees. Listen, for real, I should be in somebody's surgical emergency room helping people out as much as I owe in student loans. You know what I mean? I should be MD.
Listen.
I have a master's in social work and a master's in exercise science, for those who are wondering.
Well, that's good. And those are 2 things that are very intricately linked.
Facts.
You
as wellness.
Right?
Yeah.
You in the gym pumping that iron, honey. You have less time to be out here in these streets being fast.
Yeah.
So you were saying a lack of ability to cope.
Yeah, it's I look at the situation. I look at it as an inability to cope. If the reports were true, they said that the guy Eric Holder had came up and Nipsey was like, probably like, yo, we don't want you around here no more. You're a snitch. You're an informant. You're a rat. And outside of being called a homosexual slur, the other awful thing you could call a black or brown man, white men too, is to call him a snitch, to call him a rat, right? Because, we want to belong, right? No matter what it is. It's the reason why, part of the reason why Nipsey joined the, it's interesting just how his Crip affiliation, or is it Crip? But one of them.
He's a Crip. Bloods have to be red.
Yeah.
That's how I work it out.
Yeah. It's interesting how, we just gloss over the gang affiliation, regardless at some point of his life, because that meant he wanted to be accepted.
Yes.
Right? He wanted to be accepted.
Something was going on in his home life.
Potentially. Or you got just some good kids, or some good family, healthy family structures, and kids still just want to be a part, because you want to be with your friends, you want to keep up with the Joneses and what's happening. And so with Eric Holder, no different. And so if it's somebody I used to be cool with,
his name throws me off.
Yeah, because you look up. Yes. I googled it the first time and I saw Eric Holder. I was like, Obama man gave it up like that? Like, nah, not that. But no, in all seriousness, I really start to sit back and granted, he should be held accountable for his actions first and foremost. He should be held accountable. But then I started to think back about what his life could potentially look like. Now, if it looked like with the black and brown boys that I've had the privilege of being their therapist, I could understand how he got to that point. And I have empathy for him. People are like, how can you have empathy for a killer?
Because he's still a person.
He's still a person. And, these experiences aren't just endemic to Eric Holder, right? They're endemic to a lot of people within urban populations.
And people who aren't, quite frankly.
Facts. We're talking about, again, an inability to cope. And so, when I was in the men's group that I hold, I had this conversation. I was like, Eric Holder, his last poor, unhealthy coping decision was shooting Nipsey, right? But this goes way back. Like, we can go into a 2nd grade, 3rd grade classroom, and we have a young black boy, brown boy who doesn't have the requisite coping skills to deal with what's happening. All they know is what they see, right? And so we're talking about coping is learned. I tell my mom, shout out to my mama, who's listening now, whenever I go speak, I say, listen, I was kicked out of school. I was kicked out of college. I was suspended in high school. And it was just like, how? What happened? I learned how to cope from my mom. I've never been in a fight in my life, but I could curse somebody out with the best of them, right? And so learning how to cope and how it's reinforced if you're in the classroom setting in 3rd grade, you're getting suspended, you're getting put in ISS, and nobody's sitting there having that conversation with you. You don't have any role models to let you know that it's okay to be hurt. Right, it's okay to feel whatever it is you're feeling, but we
don't talk to our kids about that.
Facts.
You need to go put a smile on your face.
Facts.
What's wrong with your face?
Facts.
Fix your face.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? We don't ask, well, how did your face get that way? What's wrong with your face?
Listen, listen, exactly, and that's something that
I'll give you something to cry about.
Listen, I'm super aware of with my daughter. I always made it my prerogative to make sure I never told her because I said so. Right?
Because I said so.
I want her to be expressive. I want her to be able to say whatever it is that she's feeling. Because if I want her to say it to me, I wanted her to say it to the expert, quote unquote expert. I want her to be able to express how it is that she's feeling, because it's going to be a point in time where life might get difficult and she needs to be able to emote. She needs to be able to communicate her feelings. And so with Eric Holder in that situation, again, it's rejected. So instead of sitting there saying, well, dang, that's, I feel some type of way, that you're saying this, it makes me feel, sad. I'm hurt by what you're saying. It's automatically, again, I go from 0 to 100 because that's how
1,000. Someone is dead. That's 1,000.
But that's how I've been coping from the gate.
That's right.
Right. And so, and it's unfortunate, right?
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but we have to do a better job in offering permission for our black and brown boys and men and our children in general and our adults, right? And our adults, because sometimes we get in relationships where we don't feel like we can communicate, right? We might want to communicate what we're feeling and what'll happen. You adapt, right? So what's going on with you? None, I'm good, right? I'm all right, I'm cool. But inside, everything is piling up until
there's an explosion.
Exactly. Because it's going to come out one way or another. It has
Pressure
no choice.
bust pipes.
Facts.
And so, how is that this lack of coping skills? But it's more. It's like a trauma happens, and we'll call it a rift, a schism, and if the schism isn't properly addressed, it just piles on. Another trauma happens. Another trauma happens. Another trauma happens.
Yeah.
Would you say that that's part of the reason why maybe the schism is why our relationships look so weird? Some of our relationships are. Do you know where I'm going with this conversation?
I'll let you keep on.
Let me keep on. Because what I want to say is that I feel like a lot of times men and women are having the same conversation but different.
Facts.
And women are socialized to potentially communicate more effectively or use their words. And men and boys who become men, are socialized to be more physical in their communication. And so when a woman rejects a man who has been through trauma and does not have the necessary coping skills, he might do a Eric Holder, not necessarily shoot her up, but physically assault.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I think
and part of this I want to get into this consent. I want to get into a consent conversation because we talked about it. You talked about it on your Facebook, and then we kind of talked about it when you came in, and it's related to what Afia was talking about too, about treating individuals as individuals, because it's going to be different for everybody.
Yeah.
But saying that to say, what was interesting about what I just asked? Was it not clear?
No, it was clear.
I'm trying to get to. What I'm trying to not do is be like men be doing.
Facts. I mean, just be real. Be you. It's cool. Be you. If you want to get that off, you get that off.
But I don't have that on.
Okay.
I'm just, you know what I'm saying? Like that's not what. But I know that there are lots of women who are suffering from trauma from men.
And my thing is, I always say, you know, I make no bones about it. I embrace that I'm a, I'll be the representative.
You don't
right?
have to be.
No.
But I know you talk to lots of different men.
I do. I talk to a lot of boys and I talk to a lot of men, and it's the idea that communication is poor on both sides, right?
Which is true. But there are far less men getting their behinds whooped.
And see, that's listen. Statistically speaking, yes. Right, statistically speaking, but then again, if we want to look at it, we want to be honest. How many men are going to come out and say they've been assaulted by their significant other? We have to be mindful. And even if the percentage, I still recognize that there is disproportionate. I don't want to ignore that. But again, I look at what are key things that tend to lack in certain.
Okay, so we're going to look at key things that tend to lack in relationships when we come back.
All right, cool.
Okay. You off the hook. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900. Phil Browntree is in the building. We are talking about healing from the perspective of what is it going to take for men and boys, to get to this place where they feel safe. In being their authentic selves. That's where I'm trying to get to in this conversation. That's where I'm trying to get to. All right, you're listening to Friday Night at the Lounge, 900 AM, 96.1 FM WRD. We'll be right back.
Don't miss the Electric Magazine Show, hosted by Cody Anderson and Vicky Leach. Saturday mornings from 7 a.m. till 9 a.m. Exclusively on Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
What's cheesy, topped with a fluffy egg and crisp applewood smoked bacon? Easy. McDonald's new $2 breakfast deal. For a limited time, get a flaky bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit for just $2. And if you're craving something savory and sweet, get a delicious bacon, egg, and cheese McGriddles for the same price. Hurry in and bite into this tasty deal any day of the week. Only at McDonald's. Price and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer or combo meal for a limited time only.
Support independent black media and join the Forward movement now at 215-425-7875 or visit wordradio.com. The Kimmel Center offers free arts education programs to schools across the region. Teaching artists visit classrooms to educate, engage, and inspire the next generation using creative learning experiences, and schools take trips to the Kimmel Center for live performances. The Kimmel Center is committed to educating Philadelphia's youth by providing access to quality arts. For more information, visit kimmelcenter.org.
When you went car shopping, you meant business. You aced vehicle history searches and test drives. You out-salesmaned the salesman. Now you've got your wheels. If you manage that, you can get your retirement plan on track. Visiting aceyourretirement.org can help. With 401k tips and smart saving strategies, you'll have the info you need to get more for your future. Go to aceyourretirement.org, because when it comes to speeding past financial challenges, you're an ace. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hey everybody, we're Kindred, the family soul, and you're tuned into the lounge with Envy McKee
and DJ Frosty Phoenix
on WURD.
Don't need superficial things. What I want from you is easy. If you really want me, I want you to love me, kiss and to hold me, treat me like you want to be with me. Anything you do to me makes me go crazy.
Welcome back to Friday Night at the Lounge. Is that Shawnee? Who's that? It is? I know Shawnee.
It was Solange.
No, that's 90s.
I think everybody's Solange. So.
You thought that was Solange?
I think everybody's Solange.
I'm not playing with you right now.
Solange or Sade.
So shout out to Phil Roundtree, who's in the studio. We are talking about health and wellness, and the realm that I would like to get to in this conversation is, you know, how can we better support men and boys in their journey to healing, because that impacts our relationships.
Facts.
It impacts our family dynamics. It impacts our communities. It, you know, while we understand that the judicial system and, you know, just the realm of legality, the prison to life pipeline is a real thing in this world, we also understand that our actions contribute to those things. Do you get what I mean? So we have to take some responsibility for that. And I think that, you know, having a conversation about healing, it might not be our fault. Whatever you went through, we said this earlier in the show, whatever you went through may not be your fault, but it is your responsibility to heal, because the only life you got to work with is yours.
Yeah, and even with that, like I try to be mindful about, you know, using healing, and, you know, that's why I hate social media. You know, because
you need linguistic convenience.
Because it makes it seem so easy, right? And so when I think about my journey through, you know, understanding me and who I am as Philip Roundtree, you know, first and foremost, you know, it hasn't been an easy process,
and it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, but even, you know, I think about.
But why do we think the word healing means easy?
No. I think how freely it's become cliche first.
Okay.
You know, it's definitely become cliche.
I can see that.
And I think somebody says you need to heal, right? And it's just like, yo,
it's a way to dismiss you.
What you're asking me to do might be the hardest thing that I may ever do in my life, right? And so me, somebody living with depression and anxiety, and Jennifer Lewis said this, the actress. What she said was, you know, I've been living my life this way for X amount of years. So yes, I've saw therapists throughout the years. It wasn't until I saw Dr. Val that really things started to click for me, and it started to, you know, improve, you know, self-worth, and once I got started on medication and what have you. But all right, now so we talking about 32 years, right? This process might literally take another 32 years. I may be dealing with self-doubt for the rest of my life, right? Because this has been ingrained in me. And so, you know, when I hear, yo, you got to heal, or I see a meme about healing, even when I post, you know, about, you know, the importance of healing and doing the work, I recognize that, yo, what we're asking people to do is the hardest thing, right? We don't give people enough credit for getting to today, right? It's just automatically, yo, you have to heal. But, yo, for me to get to this point, I had to survive, right? I had to survive to get to this point. And so we need to be honoring that.
But you're not... I guess the other part is, and this is what we said earlier, healing is not a destination.
It's not, but even being in a place safe enough to where you can even begin that process, you know, is difficult, right? So I always talk. It's a brother, Reginald Foreman, who I met, another dope brother who I've met in this recent journey. We were both being honored as Black Enterprise Magazine Be Modern Men of 2018. And so I was sitting there doing a presentation. I was putting together a presentation for, I had to do a training for teachers on the idea of toxic masculinity. I hate those terms. And, you know, he came up and he just started rapping. He was like, you know, from Chicago and Florida. He was like, yo, I love the arts, right? I love the arts. I love to dance. I love to sing when I was young. But I had to survive, right? And so I had to adopt this lifestyle so I can survive, so I can live, right? Again, we ask people to do some of the hardest thing in the worst circumstances, the worst environments. And so it's a luxury even for me. I don't take it for granted, you know, that, you know, I haven't had the struggle for food, right? I haven't had the struggle for, you know, for my physical safety. And so I'm allowed, and even with that, you know, and what hip hop has told me about being a black man and what that's supposed to look like, you know, that was difficult, right? And so, you know, I say all that to say, you know, again, I recognize it. Trust me, I wouldn't be doing the work if I didn't recognize how important and how gratifying healing can be to help one thrive in life. But what we ask people to do is so difficult, man. It's so difficult.
And very limited support in doing it.
And very limited support.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and so when we get to, you know, just the communication, the aspects of, you know, the dynamics of, you know, whether it's male-female relationships, male-male relationships, you know, female-female relationships, you know, it's a lot of, you know, unhealthy communication that takes place in dysfunctional relationships.
Way to bring it back, son.
Yeah, for
Way
sure.
to bring it
For sure. You know what I mean? Because I got to hold the brothers down, right? No,
Yeah.
but again, it's, you know, how we communicate, and I can't speak for everybody, clearly, but we might communicate in a way, or you might communicate in a way to me that's not what I need, right? And so if you're telling me what I need to do, or what I should do, or what I'm not doing, that's just adding to the systemic pressures, the societal pressures that's forced upon me on a daily basis, right? And so
what do you need? What do you wish that women knew about the struggle that black men and boys deal with? What do you wish that we knew?
It's not easy being cheesy. You know what I mean? It's not. I'm corny with the cliches. I mean, with the slogans.
Right.
No, you know what? It's not easy. When I have this group, you know, men sit and talk about, you know, their relationships with their significant others, and it's just like, yo, y'all are really not. You're talking at each other, right? Y'all not talking to understand. Right? You're not.
What's one of the rules? That's why I did the intro. You get it? Okay, thank you.
You know, we're not talking to understand. A lot of times we want to get our point across, right? Because we feel so passionate about our point. But it takes a really healthy and comfortable and safe environment in order for communication to thrive. And a lot of times that's not present, right? That's not present for that to happen.
Well, if you think about it,
in unhealthy relationships.
I'm in a relationship. I'm not talking about me right this second, but I'm just saying you're in a relationship. You're not healthy. They're not healthy. You know, and from any standpoint, we bring our traumas into our relationships with the idea that once we're in this relationship, the trauma would dissolve or transcend or whatever. But we're not actively doing the work in the direction of it being resolved. We're basically just a lot of us don't even know that there's anything to resolve.
Facts.
So we get into these relationships and the gooey feelings happen or whatnot, not even realizing that we're probably dating our issues with our mom, or we're dating issues with our dad.
Listen.
You get what I'm saying?
No, that's real.
And so we're basically reenacting what we grew up with and not even recognizing that we're doing it.
Yeah.
And so that adds a whole nother level of trauma because, you know, I'm mad at my mom, you know what I'm saying? And you are triggering from those areas, and it's real out here in these streets.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's why, you know, I'm such a big advocate of people going to therapy.
Yes.
You know, nothing has to be wrong. Like, if something is wrong, then yeah, you can talk out your issues. But also, if things are going right, you want to understand how to keep that going. Right?
I love that.
It's good to have, you know, a unbiased ear to listen to you, because your friends are going to listen to you because they're your friends. And yeah, you might get some great advice, but sometimes.
But do you need advice?
Or you might get advice, you might get, you know, whatever. But it's always good to have that person who doesn't know you from Adam sometimes.
Yeah.
Who's trained to sit and just listen and to take it in and to push back if necessary and to pull if necessary. And so that's important because, again, the goal is to grow. You know, and so yeah.
The goal is to grow. That's the T-shirt. The goal is to grow. Where's my pen? I need to write this down. The goal is to grow. Yes. You got gems for days.
Listen, I used to be a rapper in my previous life.
Did you really?
For just on the school bus.
So you talking about when you like 12?
I was like 17. I was Jacob J. CUB.
What?
The Cub.
Listen.
Well, yeah, no, I wasn't.
Listen,
Yeah.
I don't have enough brain cells to be. Phil Roundtree in the building. So tell us again. We have to go to break. I'll have you do it when we come back. Phil Roundtree is in the building. You're listening to 900 AM, 96.1 FM WURD. If you want to call in, you got something on your chest that you need to get off, 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900. We'll be right back.
Young and woke. Fridays on Wake Up with Word. Hosted by the rapping professor, Dr. Aaron Smith. 7 a.m. till 10 a.m. right here on Word Radio. 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
I ain't no better than you, and you ain't no better than me. But we all have something in common. We all are species, seeds of God's creation.
Tune in to Messages in the Music every Friday night with Joey T, midnight to 6 a.m. right here on WURD.
This is Cody Anderson. Palace Travel provided me with one of the most memorable trips I've taken to Ghana, West Africa. Palace Travel specializes in tours to Africa, including Ghana, Senegal, and South Africa. Throughout the year, Palace Travel has scheduled trips to Africa, including the next Panafest celebration in Ghana, July 2019. The trip of a lifetime, the historic return of the African diaspora after 400 years in the Americas, August 5th to 14th. Africa's Improvement on Coachella, the annual Afrochella Festival in Ghana, December 27th to January 3rd. Ring in the new year in Ghana. Call Palace Travel to reserve your place on one of their scheduled Africa trips with convenient payment plans. Call Palace Travel today at 215-471-8555 or visit their website at palacetravel.com.
Now, with more clarity, this is Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia. Streaming live at wordradio.com.
What's going on? This is Asher Roth, and you're listening to The Lounge on Word Radio.
How do you mend when your world's apart? Ooh, carry on. Ooh, from the start. Somehow we fell in love, then fell right out of touch. And ooh, that was hard, but ooh, here we are. And it's easier to walk away than to look for what would make you stay. Remember when we first met? We were having so much fun. So now how could we both forget? Telling each other we're the one. We would make love at the drop of a hat. Remember that? Yeah. I remember you and me, close as any two can be. Now we're strangers in the night, awkward and uptight. Oh baby, do you wanna make it better? Do you wanna stay together? Hey, if you do, then let's please make some new memories. When you take somebody for your own, it can't survive on history alone. Yeah. Meet me at the hotel motel, though we got a room at home. Go to a place that we don't know so well. It'd be nice, add a little spice, try some new seduction, show each other how, give each other new instructions on what makes us feel good now. I just wanna make you feel good now. Feel good, don't it? Come on. Do you wanna make it better? Wanna make it right? Come on. Do you wanna stay together?
Who this is? Oh, is it? Anderson 5. Welcome back to Friday Night at the Lounge. Envy McKee, DJ Frosty Phoenix in the building. We have Philip Roundtree.
You.
Helping y'all men's and them male people.
Just offering some insight, man, some perspective on a marginalized group.
Oh, Jesus Lord. So, okay. I have this theory that while I think it's powerful and important that we name a thing, you know, we point out what it is so we can, you know, face it to fix it. I also feel like we were talking about earlier on the show that we find ourselves in a loop where we get so kind of addicted to talking about the problem that we don't even realize that our input reflects our outcome. You know what I'm saying? What you put in is what you're going to get out. And so we're not even having the conversation of how do we change our input. Do you get what I mean? I like to stay away from the idea of, you know, it's very complicated to say you have victim consciousness. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not a thing that people say out loud. You know what I'm saying? And understanding that it's a vibration. But that being said, do you find in your work that is the case? That it because of the trauma, because of the pain, because of the commiseration culture, if you will, that it's harder for people to even get on path because, like you said, there's a blockage to even get access to the healing path because of survival first. Yeah. And then once you get on path, it's kind of like you don't know really where to turn because we're really now in the past the
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
But I need to be able to be clear because there are people that don't get what I'm saying.
What you're saying. I got you.
So survival is a very real obstacle to even getting on path to healing. But once we get past the survival, we're not even at thrival yet. We have our basic needs met. Now we're talking about we're in this loop of sharing our story. This is my story. This is where I came from. This is my pain. You know what I'm saying? And then we're all like, oh, yeah, that's my pain too. And but we're not even talking, we're not having the real conversations. How do we transcend that? Yeah. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I feel like I used a lot of words.
No, I what I think you're saying.
Thank you.
What I think you're saying.
You're a therapist.
Correct me. Let me know if this is it. So it's this idea that we experience whatever trauma that we're experiencing, and then thus we adopt how we cope to survive in order to survive. And then once we recognize that, you know what, this isn't as healthy, then we start being, we become more expressive about our story and what happens, and then that's where it stops.
What he said. What he said.
Listen, I'm 100,000 in debt. You know what I mean?
It's real.
You've seen that. That's what that is. That's a reckless education.
Yeah, that's where it stops. Yeah. And so then we get in this loop of oh, look at my pain.
Well, and I definitely think the trauma Olympics is real.
The trauma Olympics.
Dude, see, you got me thinking I got gems for real.
I'm saying I can't wait to listen to this back and write them all down.
But no, we do. You know, we do get in this whole, especially with social media being so such an integral part of our lives. It's like the traumas, we're comparing journeys to everybody else, and it's you're a woman, you experience this, well, I'm a man, I experienced this, and it's just like
we're fighting each other,
who's wanting up, right? Because what Jay say about when the family, nobody wins. It's when the family feuds, nobody wins, and that's what we have a lot of times. It's a lot of finger pointing. I do think, regardless of whether it stops, the more you share your story, the more you give, truth to power. And so even if that might be the extent. you know, for some people, right? But even getting to that takes a yeoman's effort. Now you hope they really start working on it, you know, and working through it. But for some people that may not be a reality for a myriad of factors. You know, but I think just who we are, we're extremely resilient as a people. We start from an you know, emotional and mental deficit when we're born, right? We come into this game unfortunately already behind, and so, you know, going forward, that's only either going to be reinforced, or you fight like heck, like I do with my daughter, to try and make her so she's not experiencing depressive symptoms at 13 like her father was, right? And so you work like heck to end that cycle. Now this is I don't want to say a gem, right? But it's this idea of, you know, of generational wealth, right? We talk about money, we talk about Jay-Z and his money, and Beyonce, how she got 4 million, but she got Netflix special.
Oh,
and
yeah,
you know what I mean? And all that. And it's like we have this idea about generational wealth, and in my eyes, what generational wealth is, you know, my daughter hasn't had to go hungry, right? My daughter is emotionally well. And that, for me, that's the real wealth. You know, the money can come and go. Right? And yeah, that's an important part of it. But, you know,
but let's get all of our kids there first.
But for me, and what I hope to instill in her and to my son is that, listen, you know, you got to be right emotionally first and foremost, because that's how
Can I get some applause there? Just hold that. Say that again for the folks in the back.
Man, I be rolling. What I say?
He said, I want to make sure that my kids are emotionally healthy first. Let's start there first.
Yeah, first and foremost. You know, first and foremost, I want to make sure that they're emotionally healthy before they step foot in this cruel world, right? That's going to do everything in its power to marginalize them, and make them a part of a group that doesn't thrive, right? So I want to make sure that they have the wherewithal to navigate those difficult spaces.
Yeah.
So.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. How can we reach you, Philip? Because we're going to. Let me start here. Sometimes therapy is wonderful. Green juice, fabulous. Going to the gym, all of those things, right? Yeah. But sometimes we need a quantum leap. And I feel like, oh, she's not on yet? Oh, sometimes we need a quantum leap.
Yeah.
Right? And I feel like there are lots of other modalities. Are you into any alternative medicines? You into Reiki? You into...
No, my homegirl is. My homegirl is, yeah, for sure.
Has she had success with that?
She has. She has. I really don't get into because I don't really know too much about it. But
acupuncture, cupping, meditation.
She just said I'm going to Reiki. I'm like, all right, cool.
Meditation.
Meditation is beneficial. I have an app for meditation. Well, no, I don't personally have an app, but I do have an app on my phone. No, I'm not that advanced, not yet. But yeah, I do. You know, I definitely think there are different ways we can learn how to cope. So, you know, again, we got therapy, right? So you might not have insurance. You might try to go to if you don't have insurance, you should be going down to your local health center.
We've talked about that. There are ways. That's right.
For therapy, because their job is to help you get some type of health insurance to help you cover you.
Yeah.
But every situation doesn't warrant therapy, right? I go on a bi-weekly basis, but I do have some skills. I have controlled breathing, so we're talking about inhaling and exhaling, right? Slowly, you know, for a 5 to 10 count. We're talking about progressive muscle relaxation, which is starting with your hands, squeezing them tight, releasing it.
I've already lost
we can't
one.
let it pop off.
Already lost
you know,
one.
we're talking about going through being intentional about going through each body part, squeezing it and releasing it. And what that does is that tension helps you decompress. That helps lower your blood pressure or what have you. It's the same benefits as lifting weights, right? Because you're lifting weights, you're putting, it's positive stress. And what we call positive stress is eustress, right? It's like stress often gets a bad name, but there are positive aspects of stress. So we're talking about...
Yeah, sometimes you're rammy. You got to work it out.
Yeah, so we're talking about eustress. We're talking about, for me, yes, I take Effexor 75 milligrams every morning for my depression, but I also take CBD oil which has been beyond helpful for me. You know, I've had my thoughts about marijuana, you know, but for some people that's helpful for some people. I always say with that, I always say, when you smoke or before you smoke or whatever you use, edibles or what have you, write down what it is that you're experiencing, right, at that moment in time, and then reflect back on it.
Journaling.
Exactly, journaling. And so I had a brother do that in the group that I run, and he came back and said, yo, you know, I saw a decrease in me using edibles, right? Because I was using it at times where I was highly stressed. And so I tried not to use it during those times, but during times where I just wanted to relax and chill. And he saw a decrease in it. But again, we're talking about knowledge of self. It's like know your ledge, right? You need to know self. You need to know what works for you, what's healthy and works for you. So we're talking about journaling. We're talking about meditation. We're talking about if you're dealing with, you know, you're still harboring unhealthy feelings for an ex, write them a letter, right? You don't have to send it, but write it. You want to get those emotions out. You can write it. You can send it, right? I've sent some letters. You know, you write the letter, or you can put it in the mailbox, mail it to yourself. Just get those feelings out, you know, so just finding healthy ways to cope.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
And that's why you got all that education.
So I can tell people to get a journal. Yeah.
Let's talk to Carol real quick. Hi, Carol. Welcome to Friday Night at the Lounge.
Hi. I hardly ever called, but I had a comment, and I wanted to say that I appreciate the gentleman talking about his relationship with his daughter, and it kind of confirms what I feel about relating to your children. I feel that sometimes you should give them a chance to express themselves, but a lot of times if we hoover over them like a bully, you know, like, oh, you have to do what I say, but you don't open up, you don't give them a chance to speak or leave the atmosphere open for them to express themselves, because they feel, well, you're bullying over me anyway. Why should I even say anything? You know, so a lot of times our relationships with our children are more like bully father, bully mother, you know. So the children, they feel really bad. And sometimes if you say something to a child that is demeaning or, what would you say, something that would just make them not feel good about their character, then you kind of close the door as far as communication is concerned. I think that could be probably the same thing as with male-female relationships also. If we put one another down, then you kind of close the avenue of communication. But I had a question also for the gentleman. He said that he was depressed at 13 or something or another. I wanted to know what was his relationship with his parents.
Did you hear?
What was my relationship like with my parents?
Thank you, Carol. We're going to answer. Go ahead. She was wondering because you said you were depressed when you were 13.
So and now looking again, this is me being, you know, having the clinical expertise that I have, looking back at me seeing my mother have a nervous breakdown on my way to school in the 8th grade. That was traumatizing, right? My brother dying. This was before. What I miss? What happened?
You said your brother dying.
Yeah. God bless the dead, Bobby Baker. You know, my brother died when I was 17 in 12th grade, and he was 24. And this was before the opioid addiction was mainstream, right? You know, way before that. You know, a lot of black men, brown men, especially products of the hip hop culture, have been using codeine and Xanax and Percocets way before now, right? And so that's why he died. He had sleep apnea, and his heart just ended up stopping because you're taking sedatives that'll slow your heart down, and he ended up dying. So we're talking about trauma. We're talking about systemic racism at Bloomsburg University, where I went to school as a sophomore. I call it the juice story, right? Because, in the event that I ever have to apply for a job, if it says, have you been convicted of a crime? If it says misdemeanor or felony, I could just say no. But if it just says, have you ever been convicted of a crime? I have to check off yes, because me arguing with the a police officer in Bloomsburg, which, you know, the average age is 55, a 55-year-old white person going to a predominantly white institution where the school police knew the majority of the black folks' name on campus. So when I'm filling my cup up after purchasing my cup, and she tells me, Phil, don't do that, and me having the chip on my shoulder and me having the unhealthy interactions that I've had with police because my car matched the description when I was 17, and I'm like, well, who are you talking to? Again, learning how to cope from my mother, you know, it's just like, well, I'm definitely going to do it again. And I sipped it again, and she said, Phil, that's still, and I ended up getting in a shouting match with her. Ended up having about 15 to 20 charges of terroristic threats and disorderly conduct, being taken to jail, being kicked out of school, having to do 2 days in jail, and having to pay a substantial fine. Right, so these are traumatic situations that I've experienced throughout my life. But the beauty of it is, you know, in the midst of that, and just like black folk from the beginning of the time since they've been here, we're still resilient. We're still pushing forward. Sometimes to our detriment, still pushing forward.
Listen.
Right, and not taking time for self. I just learned how to take time for self about a month ago. Right, that was my first time in 35 years going on the beach and sitting on the beach and just being able to relax, because I finally was able to deem myself worthy enough to be able to take that time for me. And so, you know, you asked the question about, you know, the relationship with my, you know, my parents. You know, it runs deep, man. It runs deep. So, yeah, you know, that's what it is. I went on a little tangent.
No, that's fine, and I wanted you to, because this is important information to know.
Yeah,
People need to know that the teachers that you see, if they haven't gone through something, they ain't no good.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, where can we reach you? Because we're going to take this quantum leap, and that's where I was going before. We're going to take this quantum leap into alternative therapy. On the line, we have Eloise Prescott. And so when we come back from break, we're going to talk to Master Reiki. You know what I'm saying? She's a cool Reiki master and acupuncturist about some alternative therapies that help with depression, that help with, like, she's going to talk about energy blocks.
Yeah.
So we've talked about the physical aspect of this,
Yeah.
some very practical things that folk can do. And then sometimes you need a clinician outside of a therapist that can help you quantum leap your energy realms. You know what I'm saying? Get your auric field to spread out some.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So how do we reach you?
So you can reach me, you can check me out on my website. That's www.quadify, QUAD as in dog, EFY, LLC.net. You can, if you're on social media, you can catch me on Facebook.com/Philip, PHI, 2 L's, IP, M as in Mary, S as in Sam, W as in water. If you're on Instagram, you can catch me at PHIL_Quadify, QUAD as in dog, EFY. If you go to Uncle Bobby's, that's owned by Mark Lamont Hill, Germantown and Church Lane. You could catch me there during the day, every day, because that's my office. But especially for the men, if you know a young male, age 14, 16, up into late 70s, 80s, 90s, I hold the hashtag You Good Man Men's Wellness Conversation.
You good, man?
Every other week at Uncle Bobby's. So the next one is coming up this Monday from 6:30 until, again, it doesn't matter how you identify. Just be willing to come out and have healthy conversation, because we need it. So I think I named
about 50
different things. She mentioned the depression shirts and the anxiety shirts are definitely on my website. I also do wellness coaching. You can find me on psychologytoday.com. Philip, PHI, 2 L's, IP, Roundtree, like shaft. Round is in round, tree is in tree. It's also on my website as well. I think I got everything.
I think so too, and you're gonna have to listen to it back, because I don't even listen to 900 AM 96.1 FM WRD. This is Friday Night to Star People Lounge. We'll be right back.
The Source. Weekdays 10 a.m. to 1 p.m.